Hey, good evening, everybody. It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Bob's World, whatever that means. I think I said in the description we're going to talk about everything from Xenophanes to Zen and meditation to martial arts, Muay Thai, and everything else in between. I believe at some point I even mentioned Philately, which is stamp collecting, which I may have done when I was probably about 10 or 11. But I no longer collect stamps, obviously. Swords are my thing at the moment. Swords and guitars. So, according to my screen, the stream quality has just been updated. So please let me know if you're having any problems with the quality of of what you can see, the visual representation. I also mentioned a number of books that I'm going to be talking about tonight, if we want to talk about books. Of course, this is your sort of live stream. So anything you want to put in the comments box would be gratefully accepted. One good bit of news for the swords people out there. My new Balefire blade is arriving tomorrow. It's the Angelo prototype broadsword. My good friend in Germany, Heiko, did a review of it over a year and a half, 2 years ago. I immediately decided to purchase one. Of course, these are all handmade Basket Hill training swords. It's taken from August last year to get to me, but it's going to be well worth the wait. And thanks to Chris and Alicia at Balefire for getting on with this thing. I know they've had a lot of work on, particularly with the COVID nonsense. So can't wait to see it, and I'll be, I dare say, showing it to you lot on the live stream next week. And of course, if you come to the Tuesday night meditation session, I may even show you on Tuesday. So anyway, just having a look now to see we've got 4 people on at the moment. And I wonder who they are. Who knows? I dare say it'll be the usual suspects. Let me have a look and see who's on the comments. So we've got 5 people on here at the moment. And the comments are, we'll be on board this time. That's, I believe, my friend Heiko and Craig. Good evening, good evening. We've got 5 of you on here, so I'm assuming it's the same old 5. And Stuart made it. Thanks, Stuart. Good to see you. I was just about to discuss what the topic's going to be for this evening, and I said I'd talk about books if people can't think of anything else. I'm happy to talk about any subject at all. Boxing, Muay Thai, knives, edged weapons, swords, guitars. Bought a new book on guitars because I've been learning I've been playing guitar since I was 14. I started with an old 12-string acoustic, a Shaftesbury I think it was called. I bought it from I think it was a Little Woods catalogue that my mother had. So I made her some money as well as make myself a nice guitar. But I've got back into playing a lot of guitar, and I'm practicing shredding at the moment. So if you don't know what shredding is, don't worry about it. It's very, very fast picking, and it's something I've been meaning to do for a long time, and I'm devoting an hour a day to it. Along with the other things I'm doing, which is writing blog posts and of course waving my sword around in the garden or in the gym. Just would like to have a few more partners, that's all. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick look at the old comments here. Yes, good evening Murray, good evening Stuart, good evening Heiko, good evening Darren from Saudi Arabia. So we've already got Saudi Arabia and Germany online. And Craig from Coventry. I think that counts. Coventry's quite exotic. I've also furnished myself with a glass of wine, a Merlot I believe, and my partner made the mistake of putting it in the fridge. Cold Merlot, not the best thing. As you all know, I'm not a massive drinker, but I do like the odd drink now and again. So excuse me, but I'm going to have a sip between conversations. Craig Galvin, have you seen Justin Sanderco on YouTube? Well worth a look. I will check that out, Craig. I shall check that out. So the books I've been looking at tonight, I've just started reading a really good book about the simple life called The Way Home. Hopefully some of you guys will go and buy that. It's a very good book. It's about living the simple life, paring everything down. To my mind, simplicity lies in here. It's how you perceive the world. So I think I lead a fairly simple life in the sense that I have no real fixed attachments to any of the possessions I've got, except maybe the new Bellfire sword, the Angelo sword. But I don't know how long that'll last. I think you just enjoy things in the moment for what they are. So some of the books I've been talking about, and we talked about Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. This I read every single year without fail. Possibly one of the greatest books that have ever influenced me, from about the age of 12, I guess 13 when I first read this. And I read it every year. If you've not read it, you should read it. Talking about simplicity, that's what this is all about. I actually, when I picked up my old Siddhartha book, I found this book, which may tickle a few of you. It's called Learn Yourself Geordie by Scott Dobson. Now, for those that don't know, I am a Geordie. I come from the northeast of England, and we have a specific accent, which obviously most of you wouldn't be able to understand if I was to speak in my native tongue. And it's a colourful language, let's just say that. Murray says, I know it. And this was a book written by Scott Dobson to teach yourself the Geordie language. And he did a couple of tapes as well, and CDs and stuff. And I might give you an example of Hark's Men, which is, I fell in the other day with Ned Wright, Ned, and 4 and 20 of Hark's men went out to war again, the French, to do a favour for the Duke of Wellington. Do you know the Duke? Asks him, do you know the Duke? Says Ned. Him and me was, well, Ackwin. He called me Ned and he called me Nosy. Well, Ned and the lads is having a jill doing when this owner comes a Duke. What you saying, Ned? Says Wellington. What fettle a day, Nosy? Says Ned. I've got a job for you and the lads, says the Duke. For ye, Nosy, says Ned, it's done already. Him and we was marras, says Ned. Anyway, he taps Ned up to shift the regiment of the French what was working themselves a penneth up on the top of the hill. You see them soldiers on top of yonder hill, says the Duke. I want them shifted, not just jostled, I want them shifted altogether. Man, hinny, says Ned, it's nae bother at all. Me and Nosy was old marras, says Ned. So he calls up Bob Robson, the dabbest handed cuntin ye ever saw. Bobby says, who many men at the top of the hill yonder? 400, says Bob, deed quick. Who many men div you want to shift them, says the Duke. I'll take 20, says Ned. And so it goes on. So it goes on. If you want to learn Geordie, my native tongue, this is the book for you. And I found it just by accident when I was looking for my old book, Siddhartha. Has anyone got subtitles? Very nice, Craig. And Heiko thought the same. Bob's gone all weird. Well, actually, no. I haven't gone all weird. I've always been weird. So, reading the old Geordie language should incite you lots to go and learn a new language. You see, Heiko's on board here. He's German but speaks English. We've got all these English people on here who don't speak a word of a foreign language. Well, I speak Geordie, I speak a bit of Thai, and of course I've been learning Italian for the past 2.5 years, which I absolutely love. Amore. Paul, takes me back to When the Boat Comes In. Yeah, so those that have never seen, there's a series called When the Boat Comes In. Or as Paul said, When the Boat Comes In. So we've got posh English and we've got proper English, the Geordie language. There is a joke which was told to me by an Englishman. I want to see this joke, Heiko. You need to tell me the joke. Well, you'll have to put it in the text, obviously, and I'll read it in a while. Other books that we've been talking about discussing were Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Now, some of you, heathens amongst you, may have seen the film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which starred Johnny Depp. Well, this is the original book by Hunter S. Thompson, one of my favourite all-time authors, who developed what was called gonzo journalism. Gonzo journalism, off the cuff, taking a third person, second person, first person perspective, and the journalist would be involved in the writing of the thing. So it wouldn't just be about a thing seen from an external point of view. It would be how it affected the journalist as well. So it was more almost like fictionalized non-fiction, if you like. I think you can say that. And Hunter S. Thompson is responsible for writing many books before his untimely death a few years ago when he shot himself. Very much in the style of Hemingway. And don't tell me you don't know who Hemingway is. I'm sure you all do. Hunter S. Thompson, yeah, great author. You can buy anthologies of his work if you don't want to buy separate books. This is a huge bit. But as you would imagine, I have all of his books. Because I'm a sort of a big fan. And as you all know, I do read an awful lot of stuff and an awful lot of books. His most famous book, the book that sort of put Hunter S. Thompson in the frame, was the terrible story of the Hells Angels. I believe it was called something like that. I've got it somewhere. It was about the Hells Angels. In fact, he got battered by them, but he lived with Hells Angels for a while, and wrote a book about his time with them. He eventually got stomped for disrespecting some man's old woman or kicking their dog, I think it was. But look him up. He's a real character, bit of an alcoholic, a massive drug user, and I think this is what fueled his particular writing style. And Heiko says he's going to tell me the joke tomorrow. Well, that's fair enough, Heiko. Well, thanks for coming on anyway and sharing the potential of a joke, which I will share at another time. Other books I was talking about, Kingdom of Fear was Hunter S. Thompson, which is another great book. And then I said Desolation Elders by Jack Kerouac, On the Road. And I'm sure it's quite a famous book, On the Road, as is Desolation Angels. Another book is Dharma Bums. And again, I suggest you read The Beat Generation. Anything by the Beats is well worth a read. There's lots of anthologies as well, of course, and biographies of Jack Kerouac and Hunter S. Thompson, but that's got to be my favourite biography of Jack Kerouac. I've read that many times, and as you can see, it's well thumbed. A bit like my nose, just thumbed that. We can talk individually about those books. If any of you have read them and you want to share your experiences via the medium of text, I can then demonstrate it through the medium of dance because I'm in front of you. But that's my latest book. Yes, look at that. How sad is that? I am finding my rock roots again by learning to shred on guitar. And yeah, my sons have been trying to twist my arm to get a PRS, which I think they're going to club together to get me, which would be nice. So we've got 8 people watching. So if any of you 8 want to try and get a word in edgeways and discuss anything I've mentioned. And I can mention one last thing. When I was looking for some of my Kerouac books, I came across this, Cold Steel by John Stiers. He was in the Marines in 1935, and he served in the reserves, went in active duty in 43, and he realised the value and necessity of individual combat training, both with edged weapons such as a knife and of course fixed bayonet. And here's Kay. Yes, welcome Kay, Belgium. Just arrived and heard a bit like my nose. So I don't know what that was about. It was about my thumb scratching my nose. I was just about to talk about Cold Steel. Great book. It's quite old. And this is a guy who, guy called Stiers, who developed a system of combat not dissimilar to Defendu. And if you want to read about Defendu and the fighting styles that came out of Fairbairn from the Shanghai period, shall we call it, of empty hand combat, Stiers like the American version of that, of Defendu. And Stiers was very much into knife fighting, bayonet fighting, and of course edged and stick. He included, and Heiko might be interested in this, quite an interesting chapter on knife throwing, because I know Heiko's been sort of experimenting a while back with throwing the Scottish dirk. The dirk's quite a large blade, and I believe you had some interesting experiences with throwing the dirk. Maybe we should talk about that on the podcast tomorrow, Heiko. That again, I've got so many books on my shelves. It's bizarre. I come across these things and not having read it for ages. And I remember using this book a while back, looking at the work with the stick, for example, because I'm a big fan of sticks and cudgels, short weapons. And as most of you know, I've been teaching martial arts all my life, so I've been heavily influenced by what you would call some of the modern masters of fighting. And it's really nice that a friend of mine, Tommy Joe Moore, is starting putting these things together from a modern context. So check out Tommy Joe Moore, and one of his books is out at the moment, but he's got another one coming out pretty soon. Well worth a read. I've seen one of them, his first book, absolutely superb. I don't have the physical copy of it. I've seen the PDF, and the second one is coming out soon. I'm going to be getting Tommy on next week to do a podcast about this up and coming book, so I can't say too much about it, except it's about Defendu. Just check out Defendu. His previous book was Bartitsu, and this one's called I won't tell you what it's called until I know it's definitely coming out next week or the week after. So Kay, you're still in Czechoslovakia, I'm assuming, in the Czech Republic. I'm still in Birmingham, and that's drinking a nice Merlot. So how are you lot been keeping? The meditation group went very well last night. I felt there was 10 of us on board. We talked about all sorts of interesting topics, as well as having a laugh with Pete Gorman and Tom McLaughlin. Tom now has reached the level of sainthood by doing a 2-day retreat with me, and I had a beautiful halo last night. It had to be seen to be believed. And those of you who are here, Tina specifically, I know you're here, Tina, hiding in the shadows, made comments about his amazing halo. And he did look a bit like a Buddhist monk, to be perfectly honest, and has continued to get more like a Buddhist monk as time has gone on. I think I might put that back down to my reputation, or my influence anyway. So guys, what we're going to talk about then, it's 17 minutes gone, and I managed to keep talking for that period of time without any dead air. So I would like some input. Any of your thoughts, ideas on any topics at all. I've got a few blog posts going up by the end of this week, and obviously 2 more podcasts to upload. I'll be doing a podcast with Heiko, who's on here now, the Catalan Society, and I've also got a podcast with Simon Gray, who wrote the book Suck It Up or Go Home. It's the final chapter of his story, his life story, about resilience, about training, about Muay Thai, about fighting, and his experiences living in Japan. So that should be really interesting. I've got some interesting questions to ask him. If you've read Simon's book, Suck It Up or Go Home, and you want me to ask him any question at all, please pop it on here, and let's see where we go with it. And Augustina has said, play some guitar. What tunes are you playing? My guitar is downstairs. I am upstairs. Next week I will bring my guitar up. I don't play tunes, I play music. So I play a lot of AC/DC, I play a lot of John Mayer, I play a lot of blues and rock, but I've been learning to shred in the style of Yngwie Malmsteen, Stevie Vai, Joe Satriani. I can't promise I'll be as good as them, sadly. That takes years of practice, and I practice intermittently. But I've given myself a challenge this month. A couple of challenges really. One of them is to learn to shred, to play really fast picking. Something I've neglected. So let's have a look. Kay, what we got here? Belgian present, a gorgeous instrument. Gotta love Paul Reed Smith on my bucket list. Yeah, it's the SE, mate, 245. PRS SE 245. It's a sub 500 quid guitar, and my sons have recommended it to me. They play guitar a lot, so I'm going to take them. I'm going to take their review as being good. And K, yep, still trying to work out the conversion from Czech crowns to euros and realising there's absolutely nothing in this language I understand except for the curse word curva. Interesting. And how do you pronounce that? Curva? Who knows? And in answer to that, Heiko said curva in Polish, and you can follow any conversation. Oh, okay. Curse words, yeah, vaffanculo. Okay, please. Heard you like physics. Yes, I do like physics. Physics is something I've always been interested in ever since I was at school. If I hadn't become an engineer by default, by accident, well, by the force of my father really, I probably would have done astrophysics. I always wanted to be a journalist. I always wanted to be an astrophysicist. I love astronomy. I love particle physics. I love all of the recent work and papers on quantum mechanics, string theory, and singularity. It just, yeah, it takes things to another level, and it makes you question what we mean by reality. So curva is pronounced like U in union. Curva, you, you. Oh, I don't know. Heiko, you'll have to tell me in the morning, mate. You'll have to tell me in the morning. It's very amusing, and I'm assuming you've got a glass of wine, Heiko, or a glass of whiskey. I don't know what your favourite tipple is. Yeah, and Kate, never thought you'd be teaching me a new curse word. Oh, lots of curse words. What the F by The Science of Swearing, a brilliant book. Notice that Stuart was trying to steer the conversation into something simple and logical like physics. We ended up talking about curse words. So curse words. I dare say Feynman, the great physicist, used a lot of curse words. As some of you may have heard of Feynman. And I've got some of his books, sadly, not on these shelves, but in next door. And I can't be asked to go now and drag books out of next door. It'd be a nightmare. The Science of Swearing, yeah, The Science of Swearing would be good. Apparently research has shown that people who swear are generally perceived as more honest. Well, you fucking know it, you know. You guys know me. I like the odd curse word or two, particularly when I'm happy or excited or whatever. In fact, I use it as just my general vocabulary, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's there's nothing as powerful as a curse word for getting across emotion, and I think it's about having your heart on your sleeve and being totally honest with people. So quantum cursing, yeah, helps with pain control too. Yeah, swearing does help with pain control. Which I learned in the shipyards when I was serving my apprenticeship. When you hit your fucking hand, you have to swear. I don't know how often you can use the F word actually on YouTube. I'm sure there's some sort of like system by which it's controlled or monitored. Got to be, hasn't it? I just think you don't have to go overboard with it. So, the science of swearing. So, Stuart, we got way off the topic of science and physics. And I know that you're a scientist were doing research. I'm not sure exactly the field you were working in. Was it chemistry? Maybe it was chemistry. I don't know. Chemistry interests me because of the way materials work, and that was something obviously I had to study as part of me qualification as an engineer. The science of metallurgy. And how grain structures change in metal when you heat it up and cool it down, which is probably why I love swords and weapons so much. But I don't know whether Heiko's still here, but he wouldn't have seen my new edition. It's not Scottish, sadly, Heiko. It's not Scottish, but it is Indonesian, and it's a beautiful bit of kit. Beautiful bit of kit. This is an old Indonesian kris, as you can see. Beautifully carved handle. And this was a gift from one of my students who got it off his Indonesian silat teacher. And you can see the makeup of the sheath is all carved. Absolutely beautiful. And of course the hilts, well, there is no hilt, it's just a basic thing, which I'm now struggling to get back in the sheath, because it is very old and very beautiful. I have seen Forged in Fire, and sadly, because it's crazy Americans, I'm always a bit, it winds me up a little bit. But there you go, that's a lovely Indonesian weapon. And I better put that on there, guys, so it doesn't fall off. And I'm not sure whether it does look amazing, and it's an amazing weapon, and that's the latest weapon that I've got. And again, beautifully handmade by Stainthorpe in the UK. I have got quite a collection. Yeah, I've got kukris and Indonesian kris, what's called a kris, which is similar to that actually. I've got a dirk. I'm building up a fine collection of Western swords as well now. No, the Angelo broadsword has not arrived, but Balefire, Alicia from Balefire, Chris's partner, sent me a lovely email tonight saying it's on its way. So if you go on Instagram on Balefire Blades, you'll see an example of the Angelo broadsword, and one of those that's in that picture is mine, and it's being picked up by the courier tomorrow and should arrive at the latest by the 12th, which is Monday, so I could get it at the weekend. Now I know a lot of you guys are probably bored by my talk of sword, but hey, I don't care. If you haven't picked up a sword ever of any type of description, I want to know why. You know my penchant for all things edged, so I'm surprised you haven't bothered. So there's also another sword that I've been looking at, which is absolutely fantastic, but obviously I'm totally skint, and if I had £1,750 available, I would most definitely buy it. And it's a 1796 light cavalry sabre, and if Heiko's still there, it's absolutely beautiful, mate. Thomas Long is selling it in the UK. And there's a big sale, I believe, of Scottish weapons going down somewhere in the UK. I've been trying to find out where. It's a huge auction. I think it's come from some stately home, maybe in Scotland. I saw that online somewhere. So if any of you guys are intensely wealthy, send me your money and I'll put it to good use. Honestly, I will. Yeah, and I don't think there's anything more to say on that, except pick up a sword, wave it around, and come and train with me. Yeah, katanas are okay. They're fine. They're fine. I think I've used katanas all my life. I think I did say this once before, that I trained Katori Shinto-ryu style. So I learned all the katas for Yaijitsu, drawing the sword and cutting. And when I was part of a comedy act, I used to cut melons real melons in half with a sword, with a live katana, on people's genitals, which was always amusing. And I believe Kay has actually seen me do that at a comedy gig that I did in Harborne a few years ago now, probably 4 or 5 years ago, when I did I regenerated my old comedy act and did a show in Birmingham, which involved the use of the katana. And it's a skill that never leaves you. I've always had good control with the katana, but I honestly believe that the katana is limited in its methodology, and I think it's partly historical, because the Japanese never really fought anybody with a katana other than other people with a katana, fighting obviously within the country in the civil wars that raged through Japan during the early periods from the 12th century through. So the katana was never really tested against other weapons, And I've seen people sparring online, obviously, with sabres and broadswords and rapiers against katana, and a katana doesn't seem to fare that well. Personally, I think it has certain limitations, but I do love the weapon. I understand why you would love the katana. It is a beautiful thing to behold, but I don't think it's any better or any stronger than any modern, by modern I mean 18th, 17th, 18th century edged weapons. I mean, I have a sword from which was produced in obviously in the UK, and this is from 18. Well, the blade is from 1790s, and the sword itself, the hilt, this has been changed recently. Well, recently 1805. So, and this I would definitely give this a run for its money against a katana. It's just as sharp, it's just as beautiful, and you can see the fine detail that's gone into the production of the sword. The hilt, even the hinge section here. So let's have a look here. The hinge section here, just this attention to detail that was common of that era, and it is, and you can see the engraving on it now as I run the light up and down its length. And if you look at the detail that's there, this is a really old sword, but it's beautifully made, and of course it's been used. The leather is the original leather from about 1805. That's in there, and it's in a steel sheath, which in itself is beautiful. So yeah, I do love the katana, but you can't beat a beautiful old antique British sword, or any European sword, to be honest. And I think a lot of people, particularly those in the martial arts, have lost sight of the fact that the West has a proud tradition of its own with regard to sword. I think Japanese sounds a much more esoteric thing, and far more exotic as well, of course. But which is fine. But I don't think we want to lose sight of the fact that there were some great swordsmen in the West as well as those in Japan. Obviously in Japan we think of Miyamoto Musashi, but we had other great swordsmen and sword teachers such as the Angelos, the Matthewsons, the Lonegans, McBain, some great warriors, great gladiators who put their mettle to the test, as it were, when it came to fighting in numerous wars and battles and hand-to-hand combat. So I don't think we should lose sight of the fact. There's a great book actually, which was edited, I can't remember the chap's name, but it was Swordsman of the British Empire. Have a read of that, Craig. Swordsman of the British Empire. Fantastic. It as good as anything you would get from Japan in terms of the types of battles and the descriptions, and total fearlessness and resilience and codes of honour. A World War II sword. Oh, I'd like to see that. If you could send me some pictures of that, Craig. I'm sort of getting into sabres and obviously weapons of European descent. And as most of you know, once I start on a subject, I get a bit OCD, and I need to learn as much as possible about it. So I'd like to see that. Yeah, cases I can't imagine a Japanese McBain picking fights in pubs and stuff. I'm sure it happened. Miyamoto Musashi was a bit of a lad, a bit of a scruffy bugger, and obviously you had Ronin in Japan, masterless samurai, and I'm sure they went around causing all sorts of trouble, and probably running brothels and gambling dens as well, just as McBain did. But if none of you guys have heard of McBain, go and check him out. An incredible character. Just check him out on Wikipedia, and seriously. But Craig, send me a photograph of that World War II period sword, and I'll if I know anything about it, I'll let you know. And if I don't, I know somebody who does in Birmingham, a chap called Harvey Withers, who valued my sword for me at about 800 quid. So I got a real bargain there. So Yeah, that'll be good. Thanks, Craig. So, okay, guys. So we're 35 minutes in, which is good going. And we've been talking about swords for quite a lengthy period of time. So, do you want to come back to physics, Stuart? I'm quite happy to talk about physics. I'm sure. Our biology friend Kay is also a big science fan. I do have another quite nice weapon, if nobody else is going to try and interrupt me, which is another Indonesian weapon, which is this one. And Stuart, you want to have a look at the detail on that blade, mate? It will come in focus in a moment, one would hope. Anyway, as you can see, the blade is covered in and I believe it certainly looks Arabic to me. But anyway, that is a beautiful weapon. Again, I got it from my good friend Wayne, who gave me it as a gift, and it belonged to his Silat teacher. So look at that, incredible. So where did I get that from? A friend of mine, Wayne Hubble, he's a good friend. He gave me 3 weapons. He sent them in a parcel, just totally unexpected, as a gift, and said that thanks for everything I'd done for him. It was a gift, yeah. 3 weapons. The Stainthorpe knife. It's like almost like a Bowie knife, but it is custom made, which God knows how much that cost. The Indonesian weapon, which I showed you earlier on, this one here, and of course the other weapon. Yes, those were the gifts. Yeah, very nice indeed. Yeah, and I was gobsmacked when they arrived. I really was. It was quite a pleasant surprise. So if anybody breaks in my house, I know what I'm going to do. Yeah, pick up my broadsword and chop their heads off. Am I allowed to say that? Well, allegedly not. So science. Science. What do I want to talk about when it comes to science? Quantum mechanics, astrophysics, cosmology, chemistry, biology. I'm not an expert in any of these things, incidentally. Not an expert at all, but nevertheless, I'm happy to talk about the subject and see if I can put a Geordie perspective on it. In the meantime, I can show you a shelter that I built. There you go. We're talking about simple living. If Heiko's still there, I lived in that for a week. How about that? Marvellous, isn't it? It collapsed. That's what happened. After a while, it started to collapse. And but nevertheless, it served its purpose at the time. Very good. That's when I used to run the survival trainings in the Brecon Beacons with groups of guys. And happy days, as it were. Happy days. And I came across a load of old photographs from my book on Muay Thai, Ultimate Muay Thai. These are some of the studio shots that we did. I came across loads of those, so I'm going to be using them in future blog posts on online. I came across a whole pile of them. It was pretty incredible, actually, where they all came from. I didn't even realise I still had them. And imagine my surprise. Where's the toilet, Bob? The toilet was a hole in the ground, mate. Look at these pictures, mate. I mean, look at these. And there's some really that was even out of focus. There's some old pictures of me with hair, which is in itself very bizarre. Is that? Oh, come on, let's start again. So if we can get the camera focused, which we have done, I'll then put the picture in there. And there we go. Look at that. Bob in his prime. Incredible, isn't it? And I've got hundreds of these things, sequences and stuff for my book Ultimate Muay Thai. These are pictures that never got used, strangely enough. You know, quite sad, really. The book would have been twice its size, but nevertheless, it wasn't to be. So there's another one of me doing a spinning elbow on Steve McGarren's head. Steve McGarren, who I would hope is still practicing meditation. Good lad he was, great fighter. Very, 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 very skilled fighter. And lost touch with him many years ago. So if you're on here, Steve, if you ever come on YouTube and you see me, give me a call. I would like to speak to you. It'd be good to catch up. And there's some old photographs of Krabi Krabong. And that is in my old gym. Colin Armstrong and Neville Grant. It's when I hosted a Krabi Krabong seminar at the gym, as I used to do regularly. We used to hold them regularly, and that's the guys training with a gao, which is a spear, and a staff, which is a plong. So the guy in the white has got a plong in his hand, if you excuse the language, and Neville Grant has got, actually it could be a plong, but it could be a gao. A gao is a spear, so it's a bit like a plong with a blade on the end. Basically it's got the blade off a darb, which is a sword, a Thai sword, of which, as you know, I had many. I think at one point I had 20 of them in the gym, and they all sadly were sold and went missing. People would nick them, believe it or not. It was very bizarre, very bizarre. I lost quite a lot of stuff from that gym over the years. This is what happens when you get strangers coming in. Is your book still available? Yeah, it is. I believe it's probably in the bargain bin now on Amazon. It's called Ultimate Muay Thai. I am attempting to rewrite it because obviously I can't use the material that's in the book because that's copyright. But what I can do is rewrite the book and sort of put it back to what it should have been, which was like 500 pages. Quite a hefty piece of work, which is why I called it Ultimate Muay Thai, because obviously it was everything that was in here I put on paper, and you know, over 1,000 photographs, lots of stuff on the history of Muay Thai, the history of the superstitions of Muay Thai, and the spiritual tradition that lies behind it. In-depth study of the Ram Muay and the Wai Crew and the Yok Crew, the various rituals around Muay Thai, as well as all of the modern techniques of Muay Thai, also linked to the old Muay culture or Chaya techniques of ancient Muay Thai. I made reference in one of my blog posts about the Chaya and the Chupasat, which was the ancient manual for training soldiers in Thailand, of which very little is left. And I believe an old mate of mine, Panya Kriatis, who wrote the most distinguished manual of Muay Thai, I think it was called, something like that. I've got it somewhere. I've no idea where. It's up there, probably. That was a great collection of photographs. Not a great book, because not very well written, as Panya's a Thai, but it was brilliant. Some of the photographs in there, you know, stuff that you'll never see anywhere ever again, probably. And Panya collected them all up and put them in this book called The Most Distinguished Art of Muay Thai. Not a very good practical book. You can't really learn anything from it, but lots of nice pictures from, you know, the period from about 1920 onwards, and some old imprints of the old palm leaves from probably the Chupasat manual, a treatise that was written back in the 1700s. A bit like the swordsman of today, you know, like Roworth, his treatise was written in the 19th century, early 1800s, I believe. And then of course you got McBain's stuff that was written before that period. And then you of course go even further back, you've got the works, the treatise of Hope, another great European swordsman, British swordsman, English swordsman, shall we say. Well, Hope wasn't English, but there you go. So where do we go from here? 15 minutes left. So who have we got on board? We've lost one. We're now down to 7, which is fine. I'm assuming most of you are still here. It's quite a low turnout today, actually. We've got 6 now, so obviously I'm blathering on about nothing, so we're losing people. So maybe it's time to wrap it up. 45 minutes gone. How much more can I sustain? Well, probably all night. But it would be good to get some questions in. So anything about the books, anything about the swords, anything about martial arts, anything about meditation. I've got a new retreat coming up, 1-day retreat that's going to be coming up. Most of you guys are on the newsletter page anyway, so you'll get a warning of that. I'm putting another 2-day course together. Yeah, I'm hoping people want to join in the retreat coming up. That would be really good. It's just 1 day, spending the day very simply together online for most of it, meditating together, discussing subjects together, going off and reading some material and then coming back and discussing it and going into further detail, and also talking about some of the other stuff I've got coming up, like the Kerouac protocol, which is fascinating to say the least. So Stuart said, how many careers have you had? God, right, okay. So, okay, I left school when I was 16 and I went into the shipyards. My original intention when I was at school was to become a journalist. So I'd done some writing for a local rag called the Shields Gazette. I was offered a chance to work as a junior reporter there, but my dad made sure that I had an apprenticeship. So he sent me off into the shipyards. So I trained as an engineer, a marine engineer. Very useful because I can weld, I can forge materials, I know how to use lathes, milling machines, drilling machines, hand tools, and I've got a Land Rover so I can fix cars, motorbikes and so on. So I trained as an engineer. I then spent a short period of time, 1.5 years, nearly 2 years in the Merchant Navy as a seagoing engineer. Which I left because I injured my back in a bad fall in an engine room. I then did a fitness test for the British Army to prove to the Merchant Navy that I could pass a physical, but that wasn't going to happen, so I moved to Lancashire. I then enlisted in the Queen's Lancashire Regiment. I spent some time in the military before doing some work in the aerospace industry as a quality control engineer, and before I moved to Birmingham, I also helped run photography courses, martial arts courses in the Lancashire and Burnley area, before finally ending up in Birmingham, where I started a completely new career and did a drama degree. So from infantryman and engineer to actor. So I trained as an actor. During the time I was acting, I needed to get an equity card to work in the industry, so I formed a comedy act with a couple of guys. In fact, there was 5 of us when we first started, called the Vajrapani Brothers, of which 2 were women. That didn't last long. We became a 3-man act called Reg Catamol Stole Me Pig. That lasted a few years. Then one of the third member of the group, who looking back wasn't particularly funny, stole money from us when we were at the Edinburgh Festival. So me and my mate Howard formed a 2-man act called the Mike Pinder Sextet, and we went on a great fame and success on the London circuit, the university circuit and the festival circuit up until 2001 when I stopped. But during that time I also ran a full-time martial arts gym, as well as having a short period of time working as a salesman, selling vending machines, telephone systems and software. I also qualified in 2000, late 90s actually, in NLP, and eventually became a trainer of NLP in 2002. And quite a few careers. I'm currently I had my own motorcycle shop for 4 years, building, repairing and selling motorcycles with a pal of mine called Benny Thomas, who has since set up a company called Mutt Motorcycles. Check them out, they're really good. I started also retraining as a medical educator in about 10 years ago. I got involved in medical education. So I still teach martial arts, I still teach NLP, I still teach hypnosis, I still do corporate trainings. I also run my own medical training company called Meducate. That's training medical students to do physical examinations correctly, as well as teaching communication skills. So I'm currently working on a number of different projects, teaching meditation, martial arts, learning sword with my friend Heiko here, the Catran Society, of which I'm an apprentice, revisiting the guitar, and so it literally has been a career in the truest sense of the word, all over the place. And this is what I say to people: you don't have to be fixed on one thing. You can do whatever you can do. Living in a Western society, we have quite a lot of freedom, and I think it's such a shame if you don't use that freedom to be able to do what you want to do. Money's never been the focus of my life at all. As somebody once said, I make money in spite of myself. I don't need a lot of money because I get more pleasure from doing things and connecting with people. So yeah, so that's, I don't know how many careers that is, and I don't know what I'm going to be yet when I grow up. I haven't got a clue. Maybe I'll become a swashbuckler or a swordsman on the seven seas. I've been to sea, so I've got the sea legs, and I'm starting to develop the sword skills. So yeah, I mean, for example, this week I'm writing blog posts on a number of different subjects: clinical education, meditation, and martial arts. I'm also teaching martial arts this week, and I'm also teaching fourth year medical students musculoskeletal exams, how to examine the human body from the point of view of musculoskeletal pathologies like arthritis, traumatherapy bursitis, sciatica, what else? Osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, carpal tunnel syndrome, and so on, and blah blah blah. The weekend I've got free, so the weekend I'll be training on sword, training on guitar, and writing. And then Monday starts all over again with some podcasts, some work online, and of course my Muay Thai classes. Yeah. So poor Heiko has had to cancel his holiday vacation. I'm assuming the German government are doing what they're doing in the what our government's doing, which is starting to close things down again, which makes it difficult when you run a full-time gym, which of course is not full-time. So it's back to solo drills, Heiko, back to solo drills. I've just started getting doubling going on as well. Yeah, let's retreat to the woods and wait until it's all over. That sounds like a good idea. And if you want to learn survival, I know a man who can. I've done it for years, teaching people survival training. So guys, 7 minutes left to go. I hope to see you guys online or via the medium of Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. I will be posting an image of my new sword when it comes, which Kay I know wants to see, and Heiko will probably be just as excited as I am, as Heiko had one of the first swords of its type. Also, don't forget, next week guys, there's the meditation group at 6 o'clock. Anybody's welcome to come on that. If you've not been on it, please come along. It's a hilarious group of guys. And yeah, podcast in the morning with Heiko, bright and early, 9 o'clock UK time. I believe that's 8 o'clock in good old Germany. And then in the afternoon I'm doing a podcast with Simon Gray. Seriously, if you've not had a look at his book, Suck It Up or Go Home, read it, buy it. You know, he's a good guy. He deserves the accolades and the reviews, of course, of which I've yet to do one. So hopefully you've enjoyed, if that's the word, listening to my nonsense. I'm surprised Justin wasn't on here tonight, Darren, but hey, there we go. No Justin tonight. He normally comes up with some topics, and we still didn't get talking about science, Stuart, because you mentioned my careers. I don't know what career I'm going to pursue next. Who knows? Rock god. Who knows? Maybe I'll replace poor Eddie Van Halen. That would be great, wouldn't it? I don't think I'm that good. Well, I know I'm not. So, get this book if you haven't already got it. All right, Techniques of Close Combat by Stiers, John Stiers. Stumbled across it purely by accident on my shelf, and I've had it there since when was it? I always write dates in my book. It was by Paladin Press, so they've gone now. Paladin have finished, but the book was originally written in the 50s, I believe, and I bought it in the 70s. So I bought it when I was just a young boy into my martial arts. Cold Steel, John Stiers. Get it. Oh, I nearly didn't mention Gary Snyder, but hey, maybe for another time. So if there's no other questions, guys, if there's anything else you want to ask, please fire them in the comments box now, and hopefully I'll answer them. But when there's only 7 or 8 of you on, doesn't go for a lot of scope, does it really? I've now got to put all those books which I've piled up over there back on the shelves, and we didn't even discuss one of them. So hopefully the restrictions in Germany and Belgium won't be too severe. I know Scotland have started to have restrictions because one of my gyms up in Scotland is having to close its doors to adults, can only train children. Hey, there you go. And I haven't seen... Oh, and my old mate Kaleem is probably going to be asking about... he's just said, hi Bob. I'm assuming Kaleem's one of the 7 that are currently on board. So, and in the last 3 minutes, yeah, catch you soon, Craig. And in the last 3 minutes, what do I think about climate change in our future? I think it's pretty bad. I don't think we have much of a future if we continue with the way we're going on. I think it'll be a case of all of us having to go back to zero and start again. But that is what happens with capitalism. When you put greed before need, you have a disaster on your hands, and it's inevitable that this was going to happen. But of course the rich will get richer and the poorer will get poorer, as we've seen particularly with the British economy. But the idiots will vote for them. The idiots come out in their droves and put their cross on whoever the press tells them to vote for. So maybe we should talk about climate change on the next live stream, which is next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Unless I get a job, in which case it won't be on. But there's no chance of me working at that time of night. So thanks ever so much, everybody, for coming on. It's been great. Thanks to Craig and Heiko and Kay and Stuart. I'm sure Tina's hiding in the background, and Darren. Maybe Kaleem's hiding in the background as well. I don't know. But thank you very much for coming on and listening to my nonsense. Take care, and Heiko, I'll see you in the morning, sir, bright and early. 9 o'clock my time. Take care of yourselves, and good night.